guys, Jireh here of Fashion Meets God, where I talk on most things faith, fashion / beauty. So a few months ago I made a video called Life as a Christian Fashion Student, what I learned. And I mentioned how prior to going to fashion school, I actually went to a Christian university for my freshman year, and I had a lot of positive responses and feedback from that video, so I decided to make a video on my experience at one of the world's largest Christian universities. Let me tell you, it's probably everything you think it is and not at the same time. So let's get into it. So I was a fashion major, and we actually didn't have our own fashion program. So if you wanted to take up fashion design, then you would be squeezed under the Family and Consumer Sciences program. I actually enrolled into their nursing program, but literally within 1 week of the school year, I called my mom and I was like, nah, I can't do this. This is not for me. And so I switched. That's when I made the switch to fashion. We went to church a lot. We had this thing called convocation, or convo as it's called. So the entire student body went because it was practically required. So we would go every morning, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. So thousands of us would go into our, basketball stadium, and we would have worship, and then we would have school announcements, and then a message from someone for about 30 to 40 minutes. That part was actually kind of cool because they invited well-known men and women in the Christian sphere to talk, and different pastors and authors to come speak. And then after convo, we would all just get dismissed and go to our first class of the day. So that didn't include, of course, church on Sundays and then midweek service. So that is a lot of church. For classes, at least for me, I had my general classes like math and English and history, of course. And then being a fashion major, I had sewing and drawing as well. Of course, like you would expect from a Christian university, we had a class dedicated to learning about different world religions, a Bible class. It was literally called Bible. And we would just go through scripture and read and study it. There's one class, I forgot what it was called, but it was all women, it was all females, and it felt like a women's ministry, to be honest, more than just like a class. I just remember it being really refreshing, and I felt really encouraged after that class. That's why I'm saying it felt more of like a women's fellowship time, if anything. I actually really appreciated those classes though, because I don't remember anything from my math or history classes, but I do remember certain things from my other Christian classes, and they taught us practical things to use throughout the rest of our lives in our Christian walk. I do remember it being kind of strange but cool at the same time, attending these Bible classes and these faith-based classes for the first time, because I went to secular school basically since I was in preschool until senior year of high school. It was really refreshing though to be able to pray before class started, or pray before your exam, pray when you leave your class. So it was really different, but I actually really loved it at the same time. I was a part of the hip-hop dance crew ministry. Yes, this girl in pearls and pink was a hip-hop dancer. That honestly was probably the highlight of my time at the school. It was the first time I was exposed to such creative, free-spirited, free-going people, and to be able to share our passion for dance too while honoring the Lord was really something special. And we had a lot of different backgrounds. We were a very colorful team. Our routines were gospel-centered, so they would show visually kind of a life with and without Christ, and we would dance, for different events and other ministries on campus. We even traveled around Virginia to different ministries and outreaches and organizations. And we even competed at some secular competitions in the surrounding states. We were practically the college version of Step Up. There was one competition I remember, and it was called the main event. And do you guys remember America's Best Dance Crew, like the early seasons? Cava Modern and Rhythm City and Fanny Pack were at this competition, and I was freaking out. I'm not sure if it's the same main event dance competition that you see like the major dance influencers dance at and show up at. I'm not sure if it's the same thing, but if it is, I can say that I was a competitor at the main event dance competition. And like any other team on campus and other sports on campus, we did have devotionals as a team. We went to chapel together. I think it was on Saturday mornings, mad early, and we went with other of the urban ministries, kind of like in our umbrella under our umbrella, women's and men's step team. Yes, this school had a women's and men step team. We would pray before and after rehearsal, and if any of us were down, like, we were just there for each other and we would pray for one another, and that was really refreshing. The dress code. Obviously, it was very modest, so no short skirts, dresses, shorts. This wouldn't be allowed. No tanks, no spaghetti straps, no tube tops, no halters, no sleeveless. I think that during my time, I think leggings weren't even allowed. I remember my friend and I, we were going out, and she had leggings on and a shirt long enough to, cover her behind. Bless her heart, she wanted to see if it was appropriate. So she came up to our RA and she was just like, absolutely not, you have to change. And then there was one time where I was wearing a black shirt, just like a black blouse, and then it had tan like embroidered designs on it, and I guess it looked skin toned, because as I was walking out of our dorm, my RA like yelled from her car. She's like, "Hey Jireh, come over here." And so as I was walking, she was like analyzing my shirt, and she was like, "Oh, I thought your shirt was see-through." And I was like, "It's definitely not." So there's that. But I get it, it's okay. She was just doing her job. They've actually been a lot more lax since like their early days, where girls could only wear skirts to the ankles and guys had to come to class in like a button-up and a tie. Just like any other college, we did have our A's, and then within our dorm, we were divided into small groups. We would have like these dorm meetings every week, once a week. I think it was on Wednesdays. Have like dorm announcements, and then we would break out into our small groups, and then just have like fellowship and accountability, and each small group had its leader, spiritual leader. They were called something. There was another acronym, I forgot what it's called. We did have a curfew. Again, I forgot what time it was. This was never really an issue for me, but I do remember I celebrated my 18th birthday off campus, and I made it back in my dorm room just in time with like a minute to spare. So you did get written up, or reps, short for reprimands, if you did violate like dress code, if you were caught cussing, if you missed curfew, if you missed one too many convocations, if you got caught going beyond hand holding, if a girl got caught in a guy's dorm room or vice versa, so that wasn't allowed. Or obviously if you had like drugs, and even alcohol wasn't allowed on campus. Some of those would even go beyond more than getting a rep or a write-up. I think they would like fine you, like you would get charged if you did some of those things. But of course, no place is perfect, no person is perfect, not even at a Christian university. So yes, you would hear stories of, people going off campus and getting wasted and going to parties, or even leaders like your RAs or those in our small groups in our dorm room and make members feel belittled and weak. I myself actually practically stopped going to church on Sundays during my freshman year. I think I only went like a handful of times. One, because I thought going to Convo 3 days a week was enough, and two, I was also just in a relationship, long distance relationship, that I shouldn't have been in, and I think that kind of seeped into other areas of my life in a negative way. Externally, I probably looked really well playing the Christian part, but internally there's a lot that had to be fixed in my heart. So no, it doesn't matter where you are, even if you are attending the world's largest Christian university, the enemy can distract you anytime, anywhere, any place. Overall, when I look back, I actually really appreciate that 1 year. I really enjoyed learning more about who God is and being surrounded by a mostly positive atmosphere with my fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. I honestly think it was like a mini taste of heaven, you know? I'm also thankful for that 1 year experience because I really believe I was only meant to be there for 1 year. As much as us believers would love to live in an environment where it's happy-go-lucky all the time, it's a positive environment, you're going to church all the time, you have your small group fellowship over a cup of coffee, everyone's in worship and in this passionate pursuit for Christ, when you step out of campus, unfortunately, the world isn't like that. It's completely backwards. And that's just the reality, and that's the reality of, you know, the world. But I do believe the school prepared me in ways for that when I did leave that campus, I was still prepared to stand for Christ even all these years later. I actually believe I learned a lot about who God is with head knowledge, which is a good thing, but it wasn't until I moved to the Philippines and went to a secular school and was in a more, you know, secular environment that I really experienced who God is and what He did for my life and His faithfulness and His sovereignty. So that is pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and especially if maybe you are thinking of going to a Christian college or university sometime in the future, I hope this was helpful. And even if you're not, at least the lesson for me is it doesn't matter if you do or don't attend a Christian university. I mean, if the Spirit is leading you to go, then by all means. But attending one doesn't make you more or less holy than someone else. And also that the enemy can attack you wherever you are. Thanks again so much for watching. God bless, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye!